We finally had cars on track for FP1 and 2 in Montreal as the Canadian Grand Prix weekend really got underway. But everybody was still talking about off the track after the FIA's decision to intervene in the regulations and introduce new regulations over porpoising or bouncing of the cars in Formula 1, and perhaps the impact this will have on the order of the grid. So let's dive into the news and of course a recap of FP1 and FP2. Everyone's talking about it, so let's get into the reaction to the FIA's move to intervene in the porpoising issue in Formula 1 as drivers continue to complain about back issues and safety concerns due to the heavy bouncing experienced by this season's stiff machines, particularly on the bumpy streets of Baku and Monaco in the last few Grand Prix. Now, the FIA announced on Thursday night measures ahead of the Canadian Grand Prix this weekend that were being taken to help eradicate the driver health concerns, and almost immediately the decision to bring in a maximum level of vertical oscillations appears to be splitting the grid. Now, Mercedes driver George Russell, who is a key figure of course in the Grand Prix Drivers Association and a very vocal figure in the urge for the sports governing body to intervene on this issue due to the health concerns raised, has appreciated the FIA's front foot stance on the issue, but feels that the initial measures brought into effect this weekend just aren't enough. With what has been brought forward this weekend, it is more of a sticking plaster than the solution, said Russell. Even the teams suffering the least, it is an incredibly aggressive and bumpy ride, and the FIA has access to all the vertical acceleration loads going through, and it is far beyond what you would expect is safe to deal with. Now, it's a very tough issue, of course, this one for Formula 1, due to the fact that there are two different bouncing issues in the sport, with some of the bumpy ride due to porpoising and the aerodynamics on the car, and part of it due to the stiffness of the new chassis on the 2022 vehicles. Now, many felt that Russell and Mercedes were trying to push for the FIA to get involved in changing the regulations in the sport due to the struggles that the Silver Arrows have had, more than others perhaps on the grid with this issue. And it's no surprise that some on the grid feel the FIA's involvement midway through the season is unfair and unacceptable. Max Verstappen, in his press conference on Friday, slammed the FIA for such a move, saying, "Of course, I understand the safety part of it, but I think if you talk to every engineer in the paddock, if you raise the car, you will have fewer issues anyway. I don't think it is correct that now they have to intervene and start applying these kinds of rules, that if you can't deal with the porpoising, you have to go up on the ride height. It is very simple. If you go up on ride height, you won't have these issues." Well, there was plenty of discussion off the track, but what about on the track in FP1 and 2? The first session of the weekend was highlighted by the bravest groundhog in the business crossing the track, just missing Carlos Sainz's Ferrari. Max Verstappen led the timing chart, with Carlos Sainz 0.2 of a second off the leader. Fernando Alonso was third, just under 0.4 back, with Sergio Perez and Charles Leclerc fourth and fifth. The second session on Friday saw more of the same, with Verstappen out in front, but teammate Sergio Perez was a second adrift, down in 11th. The two Ferraris of Charles Leclerc and Carlos Sainz were second and third in FP2, with the Monegasque driver 0.08 of a second off the leader. Sebastian Vettel was fourth, Fernando Alonso fifth, and Pierre Gasly sixth, with all three within 0.75 of a second of the frontman. Lewis Hamilton was down in 13th and complaining at the end of FP2 that his Mercedes was undrivable. So there you have it, the first two sessions in the books for the weekend, and plenty to discuss away from the circuit as well. What do you make of the FIA's stance on the porpoising and bouncing issue and the moves they've made this weekend? How is it going to affect the order of the grid? Do Mercedes want to push for more involvement and more retuning of the regulations, or are Red Bull and others right to say that perhaps nothing should be changed from the start of the season? Let us know in the comments section below on our Discord server as well, with the link in the description of this video, and stick with us for the whole of 2022 here with GP Fans by hitting that subscribe button down below.